Everyone knows that feeling, wanting to experience more stories, but struggling to find the time. That's where Audible changes everything. With over 1 million audiobooks and Audible originals, there's a story waiting to spark anyone's imagination. Take The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, the gripping psychological thriller that's keeping listeners on the edge of their seats. Imagine unraveling its mysteries during your morning commute, or losing yourself in its twists and turns while doing household chores. That's the magic of Audible. It transforms daily routines into opportunities for thrilling discoveries. The best part? Members get access to thousands of included titles, with new content added regularly. From bestsellers to hidden gems, every genre imaginable is at their fingertips. And with one easy-to-use app, switching between favorites or discovering new passions has never been simpler. There's more to imagine when you listen. Start a free 30-day Audible trial and get your first audiobook free at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Now it's time for Inspirational Women, and my guest, Ruth Chamblee, an author who is also a publishing and marketing professional leading a team for National Geographic Kids Books. Now Ruth has collaborated with Dr. Cynthia Jacobs Carter on a most amazing book, I Am, I Can, I Will, a guided journal of self-discovery for Black girls. The timing couldn't be better because there is a great need for young Black girls to find inspiration from truly amazing women role models from across generations and even millennia that they can identify with. And it's a great way to wrap up Black History Month as well. Ruth Chamblee, good morning. Thank you so greatly for being with us today.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am just so excited and really so in awe of this incredible book that you and your co-author, Dr. Cynthia Jacobs Carter, have collaborated on and created. I Am, I Can, I Will. Powerful words, and the fact that it's really geared to a young Black female demographic makes it, I think, even just that much more inspiring. And I know I have learned so much through it. So I'm excited for them getting this into their hands. But let's start with, what was the idea for you and for Dr. Cynthia to create this book?
Well, Cynthia and I have worked together in the past on a book that she wrote for adult women about Africana women. And we were so inspired in doing that book as we worked together. I marketed the book that we realized, this is something that we really need to get to a younger audience. We wanted to talk to young girls who are in the process of figuring out who they are and deciding who they want to be while they're still developing. And the thought of giving those young girls this inspiration was really the impetus behind the book. And, so many of the wonderful women in this book, their stories have never been told. Of course, there are also women that you would be familiar with, but really, the 35 amazing women that we ended up featuring in the book, they really speak from the pages with, their own ambitions, their moments of doubt, their courage and their triumphs. They inspire all of us really to explore who we are and to follow our own path. And we just couldn't think of a better way to, to speak to young girls than with these women.
And what I find remarkable is this reminder of, the who we are early on in our lives and the challenges that exist. We kind of get to see an end story often, the big accomplishment.
Right.
Which is great, but to really get the path that was followed and to show that and really, I think, is such a great lesson, a great awareness for young girls, young women.
Yes, absolutely. And Cynthia and I like to think about the fact that, as Black women and girls of today, we all share a bond with our ancestors and with each other, really, that passes down through the centuries, and it crosses oceans and continents and bloodlines. And, we all inherit and pass along the courage and perseverance and creativity and intellect that flows from our foremothers. And really, this book invites girls to understand that they too are part of this powerful ancient legacy, and to use it as an inspiration for their own lives.
And it's such a great presentation in giving these signposts along the way, treating it as a journal. So it becomes very, very personal, and something I can see is a treasure, for eons, and to pass on to future generations. But so that is a beautiful concept here that's going to help them.
Thank you so much. And yes, we definitely want this to be a very active experience. This is not, a passive experience of reading histories. We really took a moment in time from each of these women. Very important aspect of the book is inspirational quotes from each woman that we really thought could speak to the girls and in different ways. And that's a key element of the book. We selected women from all different walks of life, from different time periods, different professions, even different ages, to really provide a scope for the girls. And you do mention the guideposts. And as we thought about this journey that the girls are going to be taking, the guideposts really are sort of a timeline in a way. I Am, of course, is all about each girl exploring who she is right now. What are her interests? What are her beliefs, her strengths, the things that make her uniquely her? And then the I Can encourages girls to think about what they can do right now to impact their lives and the lives of others. How can they apply their talents and learn to overcome challenges? And then finally, I Will looks more to the future, not only in terms of the girls setting personal goals and continuing to grow and challenge themselves, but also to think about what kind of person do they want to be. So all of that works together, we hope, with the writing prompts and the pages where the girls can write and draw and all of that, to really be an exploration for them of the most important person in their life, and that's them.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's so brilliant in that way. And as I say, as this hardcover book, it's a way to, I feel, make it really that much more permanent, and injecting themselves, writing their own stories is like this very perfect diary. I don't know that anyone really does diaries so much anymore, but that's what it brings to mind, my generation. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I think actually writing something down, writing down your intentions and your thoughts somehow makes it very concrete. It's different than just speaking it out loud. The act of writing, sort of using your physical body to sort of manifest something, I think is very special, and it's a different way of interacting with your thoughts when you actually write them down. And as you said, it makes for a very nice thing that they can go back to. Maybe later on they encounter a challenge and they think, wow, let me look back at this, and how was I thinking about this back then? And, I just love the fact that it gives them that permanent record.
Exactly. And to really be encouraged to just put something down. I find and have discovered more and more in my own experience that I think I have a block, but I'll start to write, and then I'm amazed at just the flow that comes. And I think there's something about doing that, taking a pen.
Yes.
and take a pen, because, you do want to make it a record, not a pencil that's going to erase it, or, you can add more pages if you so choose.
Absolutely. We want them to make this journal their own in whatever way, works for them. Some are more visual, which is why we've left plenty of space for them to draw. Put on some music, dance around the room, feel joy as you're exploring yourself, because that's really what we want. And we feel like the more the girls get to know themselves and what's important to them, and what their interests and skills are, the more they'll be able to stay true to themselves as they begin to make life decisions. And what I always say is, if I could just speak to my younger self, I would have said, spend the time right now to explore who you are and what it is that you like and the things you're good at, so that when you come to the point where you're thinking about a new hobby or starting a new job or even changing schools, you can be true to who you are and really feel like you've held on to yourself, and it leads to a more fulfilling life, I think. But it all starts with getting to know yourself and then honoring that person.
And that is so encouraged with all the women that we meet in the pages of this book. I am, I can, I will. That there was that spark. And I was just in awe how some just had that within them and they stayed with it. So that's what I feel it should be. And I trust will be encouraging to all young women, all young girls who take up this book and read these stories, because, well, it was insights for me. Did you find surprises yourself, Ruth, with some of the women that you featured here?
I definitely did. I mean, this was totally a labor of love. It was amazing to just do the research on these women, even women that we all feel like we know their story. There are many, many things to discover about these women. One example that I love to give is, Harriet Tubman. Who could be more well known than Harriet Tubman? But many people, and I think certainly the young girls, if they have heard about her, probably know of her as the great leader in the Underground Railroad. But there are so many other things that Harriet Tubman did in her life that are amazing. Because she was so familiar with the terrain, she actually became a scout and a spy for the Union Army during the Civil War. She also led, troops to liberate thousands of enslaved people. And later in her life, she was an amazing advocate for women's rights. She even, in fact, opened a home that catered to older people who needed a place to live. So much that she did in her life. And any one of those things would be enough to inspire someone. So I think it's going to be eye-opening for girls, not only learning about people they thought they knew, but also amazing people that they didn't know about, but should know about.
Yes, exactly. What I found really interesting, kind of a fun thing, was to have Stagecoach Mary from, a couple of centuries ago, all the way to Mae Jemison and the first Black woman to go into space. I mean, these kind of bookends was just so intriguing.
Absolutely. And I feel like one of the most important reasons that we wanted to have women spanning, the centuries, if you will. I mean, we go all the way back to queens of ancient Egypt, in who we cover, is just to let girls know that they are part of this amazing continuum. That, yes, these are the women that we're featuring, and they have amazing stories to tell and lessons that they can impart, but that the girls reading the books, they have all of that within them as well. They only have to find it in themselves and explore. And that's really what we want them to do. When we started writing this book, we thought about every little Black girl who was ever sort of alone or unnoticed. Maybe she was, angry or overwhelmed with things that were happening in her life. But we also thought about the little Black girls who were filled with joy and optimism and positivity. This book meets girls where they are. And, they take this and they make it their own. And we just wanted them to know that they're not alone. They have thousands of other Black women along the entire African diaspora that are with them in spirit as they do this exploration.
Right. I, and I love that fact that it really is reaching to each and every single young girl, young woman, because there are so many stories. Like, I think all became, or most of us became aware of Amanda Gorman a few years ago as on the center stage as the young poet at the inauguration, and I think many people probably weren't aware of her until that point.
Right.
I was smitten by her, and I was just so taken by her presence and just the way she spoke. And it was interesting to find out that she had some difficulties with her speech as a child. So look at this in really a short span of time, because she was only young 20s at that point. What she overcame, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's very nice for the young girls who read the book to see younger people, closer to their age, who have also had obstacles, but they've overcome those obstacles and gone on to do things. It makes it easier in some ways to identify with them. But some of the other women in the book also, had obstacles at young ages and were able to do amazing things while they were still young. I'm thinking about Wilma Rudolph in the book, who, she had, terrible physical problems that she, through, great hard work and effort and belief, she actually overcame those and went on to do amazing things. So yes, we wanted to have a number of different women in the book so that girls could, depending on what they're going through at the time, they could identify with one or the other, and always have someone who could give them a little bit of a spark or a little bit of inspiration.
Oh, I think it's a guarantee. I would say, if we're talking baseball, you've hit a home run with the women. And it must have been difficult to just choose 35, because yes, okay, who's going to rise to the surface? Who do we have to eliminate? Or maybe there's a second book coming.
Well, that's a wonderful idea. But you are absolutely right. It was a fascinating process, but I have to say it was a grueling process. For every one person that we put in the book, there were thousands of others that we could have put in the book. And, my co-author and I just spent many hours talking over different things. But I will say that, we started with the quotes. The quotes are so important because we really wanted to find actual words from the women that we thought could inspire the girls in certain ways, that addressed particular problems or issues that the girls might face, or things that we thought were really important to impart to a young girl at that age. So we really, scoured through, many, many quotes to find just the right quote. And then we told the story of that woman. And not surprisingly, many of the most amazing quotes came from women that, had gone through interesting, lives and had done amazing things. So it was easy to sort of marry the two. But that's how we basically did it. And again, we wanted to make sure that we had a breadth of women. So that was how we did that. But in fact, we encourage girls in the book that if any one of these women really speaks to you, go and do more research on her. Certainly, this is not a historical biography by any means. This is, a moment in time for each of these women. So go and read more about the women, and certainly go and research other women. There's just an abundance of information out there. And we include some resources in the back of the book that can help girls to do that.
There are such incredible women. Of course, we recognize Oprah. I think you'd have to live in a cave maybe to
Right.
not know who she is, but there's still so much of interest that we can find out about her. Contrasted with, for me, Elizabeth Freeman. I was just so in awe of what
Yes.
this woman, as an enslaved woman with just one name, really
Right.
saw that with emancipation, she should be free, and what she did to get that.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you should bring her up because she is her story is one of my favorite stories. I like to say I have favorite stories. I don't have favorite women. They're all amazing. But I love her story because she basically was one of the, you know, quiet people. She was in the background, probably really wasn't very noticed by people around her. She just went about her work, but she was very vigilant and very smart, and she listened to everything around her. And as you said, she learned about these new laws, you know, the new constitution that was being passed that said all men are created equal and free. And thought, couldn't that apply to me? And so she actually went about trying to see if she could apply that law. And she did. She went to court and she won her own freedom, which was amazing at the time and not only impacted her life, but impacted the lives of other people in Massachusetts. And I love this because, you know, one of the things we talk about in that entry is that you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to have an impact. And I think it's important to impart that to girls because, you know, there are different types of people. Some people are very vocal and they know exactly what they think and they express it. Others, like perhaps Elizabeth, are a little bit more quiet, but they still manage to get the job done. And I personally am an introvert, so I identify with her story. But we wanted to make sure that girls who maybe are not as outgoing and immediately vocal know that, you know, it's possible to still do what you need to do even if you are quiet, and that sometimes it's good to try both techniques. You know, if you are a quiet person, maybe you try speaking up a little bit more. If you're a very vocal person, maybe sit back and observe and listen a bit. So, you know, we try to make sure that each of these stories give girls a number of ways to think about the story and think about their own life and how they can get the most out of it.
And that's where you and Cynthia were so great at getting the questions there. How is this in my life? You know, what might I do? What am I going to do? So in that, I think that also, those little, each guidepost along the way inspires to then begin to write it down.
Right. Yes, we really loved writing the prompts. I mean, it was a way for us to, you know, try to encourage the girls in a soft way to think about certain things that we knew would be helpful to them. You know, I mean, examples could be, you know, if for instance you happen to be in a bit of a grumpy mood today, what are things that you could do to actually get yourself out of that mood, to find yourself in a more positive place? And, you know, that's just one example. Or, you know, draw a picture of yourself doing something very well, something that you feel very confident in and that you know, you think you do well. Draw a picture of that. Elsewhere in the book, we might encourage them to make a list of things that, you know, make them feel confident and positive. So we sort of combine writing and drawing and other activities that can get the girls thinking about, you know, their life and just, you know, how they can take these lessons and make them personal.
Yes. Stories are so powerful, aren't they, in that way that they tell us some things and then we glean from it what really resonates. And like
Right.
with Elizabeth Freeman, I'm still so in awe of her that she was this quiet woman who just trusted that she could follow that voice. She wasn't thinking, "Oh, other people told me, you are the slave." No,
Right.
she listened to that spark within her.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So such a great book. We should mention, of course, its availability. It's out. It's available. Check with your
Yeah,
favorite bookstores and book sources to get your own personal copy. Get more and share it with your girl, your, let's say, your daughter's friends.
absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Yes, it is definitely widely available. I love to say that, if you have a local Black-owned bookstore, I'd love for you to support them as well. And yeah, we're very excited, and it couldn't be better positioned between Black History Month and Women's History Month.
Precisely, yes, because and that's a thing we ought to mention, that March 8th is Women's History Women in History Day. International Women's Day. That's what it is,
Mm-hmm.
with the focus of inspire inclusion.
Ah, okay.
Right?
That's perfect.
It is,
Right.
isn't it? Yes. So to think about that, focus on that day, but right now at this time to be aware that this book exists and that it is just, I think, the best gift we can give to a young girl, a young Black girl who, as you said, they might be filled with joy and know where they're going, but again, have that inspiration to guide them, or they're very quiet and unsure and need the support. This is so, so instrumental in that.
Sure, sure. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And yes, hopefully they will come to it, and it will be something that they can make personal, and it will be what they need at this time.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, any other particular woman that jumps out to you as to who was inspiring for you?
Mhm. Well, thank you for asking that. Yes, I have another one that I really love, and I think her quote speaks so beautifully to exactly what we're trying to do with this book. Girls may not be familiar with her. Her name is Haben Girma, and she was the first deaf-blind graduate of Harvard Law School, and a perfect example of refusing to allow perceived obstacles to stand in your way. And her quote, which I'd like to read, is, quote, "You have the power to influence your future. Keep learning, keep developing new ways to engage with the world, and keep believing that you have talents to share," end quote. Which really is what this book is all about. Learn about yourself, believe in yourself, and believe that, you do have something to share with the world, and then go out there and share it.
Oh, yes. And you have done that in this collaboration with Dr. Cynthia Jacobs Carter, uh, Ruth Chamblee. Together, this has just been such combined energy that has produced something that I think can just make this world of difference in so many young women's lives. And I'm just excited to see them explore this and be encouraged as to what they find in their own lives.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm excited about it too.
Well, I'm so grateful. I do think this is an incredible gift that we just need to keep in mind, share with whomever. We'll certainly find places. I have a list of people in my mind, including a school where I think this would be of such great value. So I encourage others to think of that way too.
I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. This can be used in reading groups, can be read aloud, and then there could be discussion. So yes, that's a great idea and a way to use the book.
Well, again, many thanks for the work and your passion, your love that you've poured into I Am, I Can, I Will. And of course, thank you so greatly for spending this time with us this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're so welcome. That brings us to the end of a very full hour of Inspirational Women with Ruth Chamblee and Sunday Morning Magazine with Howie Cohen. I'm Kate Daniels, your host, and I greatly appreciate your sharing this hour with me and these special guests. For details you might have missed or information you'd like to know, please just send me an email, kated@warm1069.com, and I will get right back to you. Also, if you'd like to listen again or to share these important stories with your family and friends, find the podcast on our Warm 1069 webpage. Just click on the Listen tab, then Podcasts, then either of the show names, and then look for the guest names. I now wish you and your family a day of sharing stories of some great leaders in history. Have a week of the same, and then please plan to join me again next weekend for another hour of Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women on Warm 1069. Good morning.